Okay, for this second page in our review, we are to find the product of the quotient of each set of numbers. So we're going to use our two rules that we learned for multiplying and dividing. Same sign. We'll end up with a positive number. Different signs. We'll end up with a negative number. Now this applies to both multiplication and division, and for same signs it's a positive times a positive or negative times a negative will always be a positive. So whether the numbers are negative or positive, the answer will always be positive as long as the signs are the same. Same thing for different signs, and this is again for multiplication and division. So for number 13, we are to find the product of 18 times a negative 2. Now our signs are different, so our answer should end up being a negative number. Now if we need to do a quick multiplication to the side, 18 times 2, we end up getting 36. So our answer should be a negative 36. 14, we have negative 8 times a negative 8. So since we have the same signs, our answer will be positive. 8 times 8 is 64. So our answer is a positive 64. Now we move on to number 15, which is division, which the same rules apply as multiplication. So we're looking at the signs. 60 divided by 3, both signs are positive. Our numbers are both positive. So we're just doing a normal division problem. 60 divided by 3 is a positive 20. For number 16, 150 divided by a negative 5. Now we have the different signs here in our division problem, so we know our answer is going to be negative since the signs are different. And 150 divided by 5 is 30. So our answer is just negative 30. So this is just making sure you guys remember your rules for positive and negative numbers when we're multiplying and dividing. This next section, we're plugging in the values of these different variables that we were given into our expression and then asked to solve it. So our first number, 17, g plus h. We have an 8 for g plus a negative 9 for h. Now we see that we have more negatives than we do positives, so we know our answer is going to be negative. And when we use our addition rules, we see the difference between 8 and 9 is 1, so our answer is just a negative 1. We're doing the same thing for 18, 19, and 20. For 18, we have e minus f. Our e is a negative 7 minus our f, which is a negative 6. Now I'm going to use stay, change for this since I am subtracting a negative. So stay, change. I'll end up with a negative 7 plus a positive 6. Again, I'm going to look to see if I have more negatives than I do positives. And in this case, I do have more negatives, so our answer will be a negative. The difference between 6 and 7 is just 1, so again, we have a negative 1 for our answer. Now number 19, we are multiplying. So we have our r to be 12 times our s to be negative 3. Now again, this is just testing to see if we know our rules, which we just used in the prior section. We see that our two numbers have different signs, so our answer is going to be negative. And 12 times 3 is 36, so our answer is just a negative 36. For 20, this is a division problem. We have a negative 72 divided by positive 9. We see that our signs are different once again, so our answer will be negative. We're seeing how many 9s we can take out of 72. So 72 divided by 9 is a negative 8. So that is our final answer for that one. So those four, we're just testing the rules again, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, just with the extra step of plugging in values, which you will see on your test. For the next section is just vocabulary, straight vocabulary. We're writing the definition of each term listed below. Now, on my sheet, I don't have enough room, especially with this pen since it writes so large. So what I'm going to do is talk through them so you can check your answers against mine. You could use your notes for this section. We have wonderful definitions on our notes. Tomorrow on your test, you will not have to write out definitions of certain number or certain vocabulary words. We'll just have to do some matching, so as long as you are familiar with these vocab, you should be fine. For 21, we've done a couple problems such as, earlier in the first video, on our first page of this review sheet. It's absolute value. We are talking about the distance. So definition for absolute value would be the distance a number is from 0. Very simple definition for that. For number 22, we also saw additive inverse on our review sheet. It is the same number, or the same distance from 0 as a number, but on the opposite side of 0. So what that is saying is that it's the same number we are given, just with the opposite sign. So like in the beginning, we had 1 as our integer, and we were finding the additive inverse, so it would just be a -1. Integers, they are whole numbers and their opposites. Very quick, straight to the point definition for integers there. For fractions, we are familiar seeing that fraction bar, so 3/4, 4/3, anything such as that. You'll see that fraction bar in there. For decimals, again, very simple, just a decimal number, so 3.2. It's not a whole number. Neither fractions nor decimals are whole numbers. In this case, we can have whole numbers that are written as fractions or decimals, but overall, you'll see fractions and decimals that are not integers. For 26, prime number is a number that only has 2 factors, one in itself. So for an example, 7 would be a prime number. The only 2 factors that multiply together to equal 7 would be 1 and 7. Composite number, however, is a number that has more than 2 factors that go into itself. So a good example would be 10. The factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. So since there's more than just 2 factors, that would be considered a composite number. So make sure you have something like that on your paper. You'll see very similar definitions from our notes on your test tomorrow. So if you need to review those, please do. So the last 2 questions are a constructed response. So then, since this is constructed response, hopefully if it calls for it, you will write a full sentence, complete thought. For 28, we won't have to write a sentence for this one. We're using a number line, so we don't have to worry about that yet. It's saying plot the numbers -5 and 5 on the number line to compare. So the first step is plotting those numbers, so -5 and 5. Now we're comparing. We need to see if it's less than, that's what this sign means, or greater than. Now -5, if we look at 0, we should see that our 5 is greater than -5. So we're rewriting this as -5 is less than +5. That's all you need to write for that one. And last but not least, our last problem says the income from the cheerleader car wash was $320. Okay, so it's a positive 320. They earned $320. Now expenses for the car wash totaled 52, so that's a -52 there because we had to spend money. Those expenses, so that's a negative number. Now we need to use integer addition. That's very important. Addition to find the total profit or loss from the car wash. Now this is where our complete sentence would come into play. Now we know that we earned $320 from this car wash. Now since we have to use integer addition, we need to have that addition sign in our expression. That's the most important part here. Now we're adding our total expenses. So it's a -52. So we're adding a negative on here. Now we're using our addition rules. We see that we have more positives than we do negatives. And the difference between 320 and 52 is 268. So we end up with a positive 268. Now, that is not our final answer. We need to make sure we write it in a complete sentence and use the context of our problem. So we could write the total profit was $268. Very simple, short sentence, but we need to make sure we write it in a complete sentence, complete thought. So the total profit was $268. Now remember, if you guys wrote something like 320 minus 52, you would not get full credit for that since we are asked to use integer addition here. So make sure you are very slowly and making sure you're looking over those directions and really understanding what they're asking us to do. Because I don't want anyone losing silly points for that. So you'll see something asking for integer addition tomorrow. Make sure you really read that and you understand that we have to use that addition sign in there to show the expression that they're asking. So in this case, 320 plus a negative 52. Okay, so that is the end of our review. Hopefully you guys did well on your review sheet. Tomorrow we will have our test. I want to make sure we have the full 50 minutes since it is somewhat of a lengthy test. If you guys have any questions, you can email me or you can ask me very quickly in the beginning of class tomorrow. Hopefully you guys did well. Make sure you study hard and look over all those definitions and the rules that we've learned the past week. And I know you guys will do awesome. So if you have any questions, make sure you make a note of that.